I tell you what I learned along the way is the cost of education is cheap compared to the price of ignorance. You know, my biggest focus today is not so much teaching the real estate. We teach real estate. I can teach anybody how to buy and sell houses in a very short period of time. But the hardest thing we have to work on today is to teach people how to run a business and get out of the minutia, get out of the daily grind. I'll tell my folks, this is a very part-time business that produces a massive full-time income. And if you're working at it more than part-time, you're just wasting all the time you're putting into it.
Welcome back. Welcome to day 4. And our subject today is where to get the money and why. All right, guys, before I get started, do we have anything to talk about that we missed?
Just a reminder of how questions work in case people are joining us for the first time on day 4. We are taking questions afterwards for all of our VIPs. We're going to be in a separate section. There's a Q&A with Ron link on the left side that you can click on if you're a VIP. If you're not a VIP, you can become a VIP. I don't know if Ron still has a list of benefits up there, but you get the recordings of this event, including the first few days that you might have missed, and all the way through day 5. And you also get the recordings of the Q&A sessions. You get an optional 30-day trial to the Gold Club and our Dream System that we covered on day 2. You get a 30-minute planning session with one of our course advisors where they can really map out where you are and where you want to go and what you need to get there. You get monthly conference calls with Ron where he spends about 90 minutes on the phone taking questions each month. Fast Start to Wealth course, which is about a half-a-day event where Ron really kind of dives into both the terms business and the wholesale business. Kind of goes over those and how you make money in both of those areas. $1 million scripts, which you need for when you're calling sellers for closing calls and how to handle seller objections. And you want to talk about your IRA course real quick, Ron? You can talk about that one better than I can.
Yeah, it's a little known gift the government has given us called a IRA. And with a Roth IRA, which everybody watching can qualify for, you never pay taxes on the gain. Now, if you leverage that IRA with real estate, you'll be surprised how fast you can grow that cash in that IRA. And that cash will actually grow 10 times faster without being taxed as it will with being taxed. So a lot of people get wealthy in their IRAs, which brings us right up into today's message. At least half of the money that is lent to investors comes from the person's money that's making the loan come from the IRA. It's a very good use of their IRA to fund your deals for you, purchase, rehab, and all other costs. And it also teaches you how to put your children to college all the way through grade school to college and never pay any of the cost of doing so, including the tuitions in the colleges. By leveraging a special IRA for your child that is just for paying all the expenses for the child's education. And of course, child's got to be under 18 to set those up. So if you got children, grandchildren, Anybody you like that much don't know what this IRA does, and it's very easy to open. And anyway, we'll talk about that all on that course, and you'll understand why you want to use your IRA very, very clearly. It's foolish not to, actually. As many deals as you can. All right, that it, Nick?
Yeah. Did we say the price of that VIP package? I don't know if we did.
I did. 149.
Yep.
Yeah, 149. Dirt cheap, and you're running out of time to get it. By the way, the IRA course alone sells for $497. It's Christmas. Okay, I'm going to get to work here on this class called Where to Get the Money. And you should be writing down your questions as we go so that the VIPs can ask them when we're through. And Nick, you want to tell them how to do that exactly?
You mean to become a VIP, or where to put questions?
Okay, when I'm through with my lesson, we're going to shut down. And then how do they get back on into the Q&A?
Got it. Yeah, we're all you'll do at that time is on the left-hand side, you'll see where it says Q&A with Ron. Whenever Ron is done with the training portion, you just click on that, and it'll switch you over to a different room with Ron, where if you want to, you can share your camera and your microphone and come on and ask and talk one-on-one with Ron. Or if you don't want to share your camera, then you can just share your microphone only. Or if you don't even want to do that, you can just type in your questions in the chat area there, and John or I will read them to Ron, and he'll answer them that way.
Okay. So a lot of people, they don't get into real estate because they don't know where to get the money until they get in and find out you don't need the money. Actually, you're going to learn very quickly. And in fact, I'll go back to some examples I've already showed you, examples that I did with $10. And I don't believe you need to get help raising $10. And literally the amount of money $10 investments can make you, both inside and outside your IRA. So why do you need the money? I can tell you for sure that raising money, there's only one reason to do it. That's if you want to pay cash for a house. Okay. You're going to need a little operating capital, and you're going to need some marketing capital, little. But when I say where to get the money, I'm not talking about the money for that. I'm talking about the money where a private lender puts up a loan and whatever amount you offer them, and you're going to buy the house and renovate the house with that money. And then you're going to raise more money to handle closing costs and then some for you along the way. What I just said to you, every time you buy a house for cash that needs rehab, you're going to bring home money the day you close, because you're going to borrow enough to cover all your costs along the way, including interest that's accruing on your private loan. So you can do a ton of deals where you never have to raise money, which I'll demonstrate to you again here. I showed you 5 houses the first day, I think I did yesterday as well, that I netted $147,000 on over a 2-month period from beginning to end. Total investment was $50 because we had a $10 deposit on every single one of these houses. Remember these? Look down bottom in red. $10 deposit netted $37,000. Took 9 days to get out of the deal. 9 days. From the time we got a contract to the time they bought the house from us. And you'll see we sold the house for $85,000 as is. And we had an agreement to buy it for $48,000. So the difference is $37,000 is what we netted on just flipping that contract. We didn't really sell a house. We sold the contract to someone who bought the house from the seller based on the terms of the contract that the seller is going to deed it directly to the buyer. You're out of it once they buy your contract. Now, you're not going to get paid for that contract until this house actually closes. So don't think they're going to write you a check for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 and the house hasn't been closed yet. A lot of things can go wrong. So don't expect them to actually give you the money until they close on that house. Then the closing agent takes it out of the proceeds and sends it to you. So you got to tell the closing agent what's going on. And believe me when I tell you, they've done hundreds of these things. It's nothing new to them. They just need the numbers to plug in. And they need to know that you're going to do a simultaneous closing. And actually, you're not even doing a simultaneous closing, excuse me. You're signing a contract, assigning a contract. So in order to get paid, you need one piece of paper called an agreement from the seller. You need another piece of paper called an assignment to the seller. And that's all the pieces of paper you need to do a wholesale deal. The purchase agreement, the seller signs. The assignment agreement, you sign and your buyer signs. All that goes to the closing agent. They do the rest. Now, back to IRAs for a moment. How much money did it take to do this deal? It's right in front of you. $10. $10 for a deposit to the seller. Now, I got to disclose that's actually not true because it cost us $100 to do a title search. A title search, not buying title insurance, a title search. So we put up $110 and got back $37,000 in 9 days. I don't know what the rate of return was because I didn't have any money invested except for $110. I know it's way better than a CD. I know it's better than a stock market is going to pay you. And here's the point for your IRA. Your IRA can put up the $10 and your IRA can put up the $100. In fact, it must. And then when the profits come in, they go into your IRA. So what I just said is one little old pathetic deal. Your IRA can be $37,000 richer than it was when you got the contract to buy the house, and it's tax-free. Hello, it's tax-free. And there are a few rules with your IRA. If you got the package, the $149 package that you have the application for right now, you can go through that IRA course and you'll see it's really just that simple. Again, there's a few rules. For example, you can't get paid personally for any activities of your IRA, except when you draw the money out of your IRA as a contribution. As a withdrawal. You can't get paid $10 on any part of this transaction from beginning to end. Your IRA's got to get all the money, and your IRA's got to put up any of the money. So $110 investment and a $37,000 rate of return, I wouldn't even know how to figure that out. I do, but it's irrelevant. I think you're getting to see the point, how fast you can grow your IRA. So just make a note of that one and make a note of this one. Exact same deal. We netted $52,000 on this. Purchase price was $60,000. We sold it for $112,000. $52,000 with a $10 deposit, and it took 11 days from beginning to end. Please don't ever come to me and tell me you can't do this business because you don't have the money, because I won't believe it. I won't believe you. When I started back in 1982, I didn't know where I was going to get the money either. So I met this guy. I met this loan broker or loan shark, I should say, that would lend me money. He'd lend me 60% of the ARB. And out of that, he would escrow the money for repairs and it's all the closing costs. Now, part of them closing costs were he got the front end points. I paid him 10 points, 10% of the loan come out of the loan from the very beginning. I paid his investors 18% interest and 6 months interest prepayment penalty when I paid it off. That's an ungodly price for money. But it wasn't then, because every time I made one of those loans, I made money. I'd rehab it, and wholesaler and close on it and then rehab it. Sometimes, most of the time, I just bought it and rehabbed it. I made money. I look at the one compared today compared to then. We netted $52,000 and it sold in 11 days. So let me say it again. What sold in 11 days? Not the house, the contract. The contract to buy the house sold in 11 days. Seller deeds it directly to buyer. You get a check in the middle for $52,000 right on the closing statement. Call it an assignment fee because that's what it is. Now, what do these houses need to look at for you get these kind of deals on them? Well, let me tell you, you ain't getting this kind of deal out of the MLS. So you got to work with FSBOs to get these kinds of deals, which means you got to do some marketing. I think we did that day 2, and I do a whole lot more of it in my boot camp. Guys, you need to get to my 4-day event. Not for me. I don't get a dime out of it. You need to get there for you and your family. And in fact, you should bring your spouse, even if they're a doubting spouse. And by the time you get out of there, they're going to be the one to put the cattle prod to your butt and make you get out there and find some houses. Remember, 2 key ingredients. You got to locate prospects, because if you don't do that, nothing else matters. You don't have a business. And then you got to conquer the closing call. And on these ugly junkers, it's an easy script. You got to remember. I'll get into it in here. So got to find them, and then you got to get them under contract for a price that the seller agrees to pay you. Now, before I go any further, what is a private lender? Well, it's not anyone that's in the loan business. They're loan sharks. And these kind of houses that need rehab, the only kind of money you're going to get is private money, about 8%, give or take. Besides, you're the one that names that. Your lender don't, unlike loan sharks. Because no bank's going to lend you money on that house when it needs $50,000 worth of rehab, $40,000. No bank's going to finance it in that condition. No seller's bank is going to, no buyer's bank is going to finance it in that condition. So you either got to wholesale it, let somebody else worry about it, which is what we did, or you got to raise the money to buy it and fix it and pay the cost while it's getting sold. Which we do both of. So here's what the inside of the house looked like, in case you've forgotten. And maybe you can see why this seller, incidentally, this seller had been out of the house for 11 years. In fact, the son inherited it. And the seller died 11 years earlier, and he never touched it. So I don't know why it took him so long to get it on the market, but we got that's by sending them a postcard, I believe. We skip traced the list, and then we knew where the son who inherited the house lived. We sent him a postcard, and that's what he responded to. And I think that's true on this house. I know it's true to 2 or 3 of them. But when you see something like that and you're an investor, man, your heart starts beating. You should get excited when you see that. Excited. That's exactly what your buyers want to see to justify in their mind to get a very low price. Now, it's up to you to clean it out before they look at it, but I'm gonna tell you, it ain't gonna pay you any more if you don't clean it out. So, if you do, I like it that way because I know I'm going to get a good deal on a house that looks like that. Here's another one. Wow, we only netted $27,800 on that one. That's pushing my minimum standards there a little bit. And again, 35 days in and out of that one. And we did do some cleanup work on that one. And I think I put a partial roof on that one as well. Not sure. No, that's not the one. So say it again. Does your IRA have the $10 to put up for deposit? And can your IRA fund the purchase? The answer is what purchase? I never purchased. We just sold the contract. That's called assigning a contract. This is one that I absolutely below my standards. If I can get it to move, there it is. We only made $15,000 on that. Well, I can tell you there's a whole lot of people in this country that would be absolutely thrilled, beyond recognition, if they can pick up a $15,000 check on a house they never, ever bought. We flipped the contract. We did not buy the house. I've never seen that house, to tell you the truth. So Adel found it. That's my acquisitionist partner. And he negotiated with the seller, and we got it down as low as we can. Quickly found a buyer for $99,900. Only netted $15,367. I don't know why. It must have been some cost on that one, because usually the seller deeds it directly to the buyer. All done virtually. Now, this is getting the bottom of the barrel right here. I got to ask you, is that your dream home? She says, I hope not. Okay. If that's your dream home, we need to raise your standards considerably. This is a low-end home in a semi-war zone area. But remember, I'm not buying it. I'm just selling it to somebody else who wants to buy it and rehab it. And remember, we're giving them a business opportunity. We're not selling them a place to live. So all 5 of those houses netted $147,000. But the cool part, we were in and out of them within a 2-month period. It didn't take 2 months to sell any one of them, but the whole 5 were in and out of in a 2-month period. So, that $147,000 would go right into your bank, right into your IRA account if you were doing them all for your IRA. And the only difference is that you just got to, for your contract, you're going to put an LLC up there, and that's not your IRA. You don't close anything in your IRA. And them, I didn't take title, but if I took title, make sure you don't close anything with your IRA as the owner on public records. Your IRA can own an LLC that can own a land trust. And I'm sending you all that stuff as a bonus. I'm sending you all that stuff with this boot camp, which, by the way, has never been cheaper in my entire 43 years than what you were offered for it. I'll go over it again, but it's time to make a decision, folks. If you want to get into this business or you don't want to get into it. There's a whole lot of thousands and thousands of people out there that are glad they came to Papa. You've met a few of them while you're here. So that's the ugly house business. That's the junkers, which you should be working. As I said the first day, you ought to start with a wholesale deal. So keep your marketing down to the low end of the market. Semi-war zones are all right. Ugly houses are what you're looking for, because if they're pretty, you're not going to buy them cheap enough. So your whole business focuses around these ugly houses in this side of the business. Now, when you're going to do terms, we're going to go from somewhere around the median price where you live and on up. Nice houses in nice areas. Like I showed you the other day, but I know there's quite a few people. I can tell quite a few people on here today that weren't on here on day 1, 2, or 3. So, I'm glad you finally found us. All right. So I'll say it again. How much money did you need to get those 5 deals? $50 plus $500 for each house, $100 per title search. You don't ever want to put a house back on the market until you have the title company do a title search. Now you know you got a clean title, because it'll really take the air out of your balloon. You put it out there, and if somebody's offering you $25,000 and you can't sell the house to them because you got a title problem, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt. So you always check the title first. That's by calling up a title company and tell them to do a title search and give them the address, and then they'll tell you what they need in the way of money. By the way, when you wholesale that, you put right in your assignment to the buyer that you're going to close with your title company that's already checked the title. Then they'll only go back to when they checked it the last time, a few days ago, and probably even save your buyer a little money. But when I sell a junker wholesale, buyer pays the closing cost almost all the time, almost all the closing costs. If they start squawking about that, I'll check off something that I pay, and I want to know for sure that what I'm checking off is a low dollars going out the door. So anyway, well, in this case where I'm assigning a contract, I don't have any closing costs. I'm not the buyer. My name will not be on any of his documents. So all the closing agent got to do is cut me out a check for what I got left, and we call it. You can call it an option fee, or you can call it consignment fee or assignment fee or whatever. Don't call it commission if you're not a realtor. Now, by the way, guys, I'm telling you, you need to disclose this. There are 3 states that I know of that will not allow you to assign a contract. They are Illinois, I think Oklahoma, and I know Pennsylvania. They won't allow you to assign a contract, but they can't stop you from actually buying a house. And that's where this course right now comes in handy, because you can easily raise the money to buy it. and then sell it. And you'll be in compliance with the law. The law says you can't assign the contract. It doesn't say you can't buy it and then resell it. So don't let anybody tell you that wholesaling is illegal. It's not. It's just assigning a contract that they made illegal unless you have a real estate license. And that's one thing it might be pay you to get is a real estate license. So if I'm assigning a contract and that law applies, I got to go at it another way. And you can always lease option that house from the seller with like a 3-month balloon on it or something. So I lease option it for purchase price $41,500. And then I go out and I sell it to somebody, cashing us both out. I'm not assigning a contract. They're buying the house from me. So several ways to get around it. So don't let anybody talk you out of it and tell you it ain't going to work here. Trust me, this works everywhere. All right. Let's go to these two houses. Now, watch me and tell me how much money we need to do these. Okay, that's Fitchwood Circle. That's the home my executive assistant lives in. If you remember, I bought this house 10 years ago, and I want to keep using it because it shows what the value of these houses are over a period of time, and that's sell, flip. We got to start thinking about tomorrow, and wholesaling and rehabbing a house is great. You get a nice big check. Uncle Sam gets a great big chunk of it. And where's your wealth? What do you do now? Where's your income coming from? You got to keep churning and burning or you don't have any income. And most investors don't realize that till they're way into it. And I'm one of them. I look back and said, holy smokes, what if I'd have just kept about 25% of those houses that I sold? I'd be so rich they couldn't count the money. They have to weigh it. So there is tomorrow. Don't forget that. Even if all right, let me tell you what I did. All right, I'm going to repeat myself a lot because I don't know who's on here that was on here the last couple of days or not for sure. When I have to pay cash for a house, I sell it for cash. If I buy it on terms, I lease option it out to the tenant buyer. And I want you to do the same. Now, yeah, but where am I going to get paid if I put a tenant buyer in the house? You see that house? I got $50,000 non-refundable deposit the day I gave that keys to that house to a tenant buyer. $50,000. Okay? And the payment I was making is $1,925, and they owed $351. They were glad to give up that equity just to get out of that house and get somebody else making the payments. And they told us that when they first contacted me. Then I found out it was right down the street from my home, and then I really got excited. So I went there on the way home, and I sat in their kitchen. We got a contract right then and there. 7 days later, I purchased this house. I still own this house. I'm not on the loan. I have no liability whatsoever to this house. And that's the way I do all my deals. The days of me guaranteeing debt are over. I put a tenant buyer in a house for $395, got $50,000 down. Now, if that was your IRA would have to pay about $4,500 in closing cost. And they would get back the $50,000 as soon as you got the tenant buyer in this house, which took me 2 months in this house because it's, we're talking about $500,000, $400,000. It took me 2 months to get 50. It didn't take me 2 months to get a whole lot less. I had multiple offers along the way, but I just made up my mind. I want 50 grand down. And understand this, folks. Be very careful about getting a bit too big a rush. Patience, Daniel-san, patience. Because there's going to be a lot of people come in and offer you a whole lot less than you can get if you just wait for the right person. And the highest one I had on this one was 25 grand until I got the 50 grand. I did not name the 50 grand. I did not name the payment. I did name the price, which is higher than the realtor couldn't sell it for. But the realtor wasn't offering a lease purchase. Okay. When you're offering nice houses on lease purchase, you pretty much got the whole market to yourself. And you're going to see what happens when you put one out on lease purchase. Adel, well, I'll get in a minute, but he's trying to sell one of my houses right now, and he's well over 110 calls from buyers in about a month. And none of them, you can't get to 50 grand out of them. So he hadn't accepted any of them yet. So anyway, my rent collecting is $2,500, and I give them all a 2-year term. Now, if this was my IRA, it would have had to have the $4,500 closing cost to buy this house. And then The next 2 months later, my IRA would collect the $50,000. So would you put up $4,500 to get back $50,000 in 2 months? I'll give you a minute. You can think about it. No, I won't. There's nothing for you to think about, and you know it. Okay. Did you see anywhere on here where I signed on any loans? No, not at all. I took over their debt in their name, and it's still in their name today. And it'll stay in their name until somebody cashes me out on this house, which I hope is never. It was 27 years remaining when I bought the house. Now it's down to 17 years. And, I might have it long enough to pay it off month by month. The $2,500 rent I did not name. I asked the tenant, I didn't. Tish asked the tenant buyers, what's the most you can pay per month? And the highest bidder was $2,500 a month. And he also had $50,000 to put down. So winner, chicken dinner. Okay. I'm the loan committee. And the minute I heard he's got 50 down, I told Tish, tell him their loan has been granted. And honestly, I know that people that are landlords will tell you all about how to be a good landlord and, wait long enough and you'll get rich. I can't imagine why anybody would want to straight rent a house. It makes no sense. They're never going to rent a house where they get a $50,000 security deposit. And even if they do, they got to give it back when they move. They're never going to rent a house where all the repairs on the house are after the first 30 days are the buyer's problem by agreement. So I don't have a problem with these people. If I lease option them, get a substantial deposit from them, I don't have a problem with them. They just don't bother me because they know that $50,000 is at risk if they become a pain. They clearly were told that they're responsible for all of the repairs after we close, after 30 days. By the way, that tenant buyer moved out 2 years later after they moved in. And yes, they asked if they'd get their 50 back. And I said, well, nope, that's not what we agreed. And they said, that's what I thought. And that was the end of them. Never heard from them since. $50,000 is your money the day you get it, not the day they move or the day they get a loan. The day you get it, it's your money because you never have to give it back. You don't have to bring it to closing. It's a credit on their contract. And so it's your money. Unlike a realtor has to put it in an account and bring it to closing and so forth. You don't have to do that. It's not a security deposit. It's an option deposit, two totally different things. And the agreement that's in my system, make sure that they know that it's non-refundable deposit. Now, would I ever name the 50 grand? No. We ask them when they call, what's the most you can put down to get in this home? That's what's the most you can pay per month. So they made us an offer and we accepted their offer. Well, kind of. I said, is that really the most you can come up with? And of course I knew I was going to take them, but you never know till you ask. So my IRA would have made about $46,000 if I'd done this in my IRA. But just let me give you an IRA lesson here. If I'd have put this in my IRA and then it sold, and I got cashed out, IRA got cashed out, I'd be paying taxes on that sale. Because one of the rules about your IRA is if you buy something that's got debt attached to it, or you put a debt on it after you buy it inside your IRA, it triggers UBIT, UBIT, unrelatable business income tax. And you don't want to do that. There's other entities that I'll train you along the way that you can do that with, but not in your IRA. You can do it in your IRA, but you're going to get taxed on the gain. And it's kind of foolish to give up that tax when you don't have to. Here's one trick. If you know you want it in your IRA, just tell the seller, listen, I want to lease option it from you. I don't want to buy it because it's going to my IRA and I have to pay taxes on it. And you can lease option it. And if you lease option a property, the IRS doesn't consider that a debt. And another option is put it in a solo 401k, for example, which allows you to finance it or put a loan on it. And all you need to have a solo 401k is an LLC with no more employees than husband and wife, period. A solo 401k can do anything your IRA can do, including holding a checkbook and including selling something triggering UBIT. It takes about $500 to set one up. All right. Look at this house. We bought this last month. The ARV on this house is $525,000. And you would love this neighborhood. It's a beautiful neighborhood. 525. At the time that I was in the buying mood on this house, I didn't know what it was worth. I looked up the comps and I thought it was worth about 5.25. But I wanted to make sure. So I had this house appraised, and it appraised for $525,000. See, I'm just that good. We did not tell him what we wanted, okay? And I do that sometimes, very seldom, to verify my assumptions, because I want to know what the real value is. And there were so many comps in there so close together, it was hard for me to tell. I mean, some of them were far apart in price, but it wasn't hard to find houses that sold in a neighborhood. So it cost me $450 to have a house appraised. Now, the seller told Adel they would take $440,000 after he knocked them down 3 or 4 times. I don't know what they started with, 460, I think. And they had to move. In fact, they were already moved to Vegas, but they were still living in this house. Husband had medical issues and had to go to Vegas for whatever reason. And so they still had a few pieces of furniture left in the house when I bought it. And I gave them, and it took them about 3 weeks to get all the way out of the house. But when I wrote the contract on this, guys better get this paragraph now. I'm going to put a recorder up here or write fast or something. One of the conditions in my purchase agreement was that our first payment to the seller on a wraparound mortgage is what it was. We owed the seller $440. They owed $335. Okay, my $440 wrapped around their $335. So the total debt's $440, not $335 plus $440. So I put on there that the amount of principal and interest on the wrap will equal the amount of principal and interest on the seller's underlying loan. Did you get that? The amount of principal and interest on the wrap to the seller will equal the amount. The amount of principal and interest on the wrap to the seller will equal the amount of principal and interest on the original mortgage on the property. In other words, I'm paying monthly on 440. I'm making the same payment that the seller's making on 335. Every time I make a payment, my principal goes down at the same rate as their principal goes down. And in case you didn't get it here, because of simple wording, a contract that you'll learn from me, I'm not paying any interest on the difference between 335 and 440. Then I put in there as well, the first payment will be due in the 3rd month after the ladder of house being vacated or closing. And in fact, they were in it a few weeks after they closed. So that's, and in addition to that, I put in there, that's what I put in there. So they moved out. I had, in the 3rd month after they moved out, my first payment begins. So if they lived there a month, that means the 3rd month came a month when they moved, not when we closed on the deal. And I don't know if you got that or not. All right, but all these cool things that I learned over the years, I transfer into these things to save you a ton of money. And we work on filling out contracts at the event. And I also told you that when you purchase a quick start school, you're going to get a whole lesson on contracts. All the contracts that are in my manual, you're going to get all of them, and you're going to see all the cool clauses that I put in them. And by the way, there's the manual if you didn't see it yesterday. Sucker's almost 400 pages. And never let it want to get out of your sight, because there's stuff in there that nobody on the planet knows except my students. So my buyer said they could pay up to $2,500 a month. So just took that call sent it to me, and I said, tell them that a loan is approved. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to take them without checking them out some first. But we did. We got a short application, and I sent them to screenthetenant.com, and he checks their credit, and he checks their debt ratio and Megan's Law report and all of that. And then he reports back to me the next day or two, and then I make the decision to go or not go. Now, listen to me. Everyone I've ever put in a house on a lease purchase has poor credit. If they didn't, they wouldn't come to me. So I'm not looking for credit. In fact, I'm worried more that they got good credit. That means they're going to buy my house. Most of them don't have good credit, or a debt ratio is off, or you can't prove income yet, or whatever's stopping them from buying the house. See, I'm going to learn that while I got them on the phone, screening them for you, send them out to the house. Because honestly, don't take this wrong, okay? But honestly, I hope they don't buy. Now, I'm not unhappy if they do buy. First of all, I get a nice check. But if they don't buy, then my golden goose keeps living on for years and years and years. But that's totally up to them, not me. It's up to them to do what they need to do to get qualified, which they know the day they get the keys to this house, what they got to do. So some of them buy, some of them don't. I'm okay either way. I can always go out and get another goose. Now, my closing cost on this house was $5,100. So I will admit there's going to be money changing hands here. And of course, if you got the $5,100, it ain't a problem because you're about to get $50,000 back when you put a tenant buyer in the house. And you got MasterCard. I'm thinking way back in the 80s, man, I bought a lot of houses using MasterCard and Visa. And I learned the hard way, make sure when that house sells that you pay that Visa off, not go buy a boat with it or something. It's on the market right now for $529,900, and I'm not taking less than $50,000. It's the man thing. I made up my mind. Yeah. And I know I'm going to get at least $3,000 worth of rent. So I'm paying $2,500 a month. I know I'm going to get $3,000 minimum. I got a $500 a month spread. I want $50,000 down, and my price is going to be $529,900, which is less than I would normally mark it up for. In fact, I don't even remember how I got that number because it's worth $525,000. So we're looking right now for a tenant buyer to put in this house, and this house needs no work. It's ready to move into, and I know one will come along. In fact, I already had one guy said he had 50, another said he had 60, but neither one of them followed through. Which you better get used to. When people tell you they're going to do something, figure maybe 1 out of 10 are going to do it. So the only thing you need cash for is houses you're paying cash that you're going to rehab. You need a little bit of operating capital, not much, and a little bit of marketing money, not much. And I don't know how much not much means to you, but a little bit about the money you can raise, I know you can find a place to raise it. And if you don't, you can come to me and we'll partner on it. But I'll be honest, I'm not going to partner with you unless I think you can get the money, because you're going to hate me at the time we get cashed out when I just put up the money and you got 25% of it, because that's what I give partners. Because my mentor's gets another 25. I only wind up with 50. So I used to. And back in the days, we used to call a money partner and a working partner a mouse and an elephant. Back then, I was the mouse. Today, I'm the melephant. I put up the money and we do all the work. So if somebody gets 25% of the deal, they're getting paid very highly for nothing more than submitting a lead, because we do all the work, especially when my money is involved in it. So would you. All right. A private lender is someone who's not in the business of lending money. However, the country is full of people who have the money and don't know what to do with it. So they just stick it in an account, might get them 2% or whatever. And they're not going to do with anything with that money. It's going to give them as high a rate of return as you are by borrowing the money from them. So when on Planet Ron, we don't borrow money from lenders who make up the rules. We borrow money from people who don't even know what the rules are. People who don't know what private lending is until we tell them. And they are thrilled to hear that they can get a high rate of return safely because they'll have a first mortgage on the property and a title insurance, close with an attorney, maybe not, maybe a title company. But either way, it looks safe to them because it is safe. It is safe. They're going to have a first mortgage. You're going to have fire insurance, title insurance, and all of that you, the borrower, is going to pay. And they get the original note and the original mortgage. So they got collateral. So, there's well over $1 trillion in people's IRAs right now. I'm telling you, that's where about half your money is going to come from, is some kind of pension plan. So let me move on here. You should not allow your loan to value ratio exceed 70% loan to value. Now, what does that mean? That means your mortgage, if your first mortgage, should not exceed 70% of the after repaired value of the property. You're in dangerous territory if it does. You don't know how much the house is going to sell for, right? You don't know how many closing costs you're going to wind up having to pay just to get cashed out on it. You don't know a lot of things. You don't even know that it's going to sell for whatever price you put on it. So if you've only got a 30% spread there, that's very, very dangerous. And remember, your share of the closing costs can come out of that for sure. So you don't even have 30% equity in it in reality. When I started, my mortgage broker would only lend me 60% of the ARV, and he used a conservative appraiser to appraise the house. So in reality, my appraisal was usually always 10% less than what it should have been. Today with these numbers, by the way, it was all cheap houses back then, but today 70% it's just as big a spread as it was back then. Figuratively, I hope you understand what I just said. Got to be plenty of money above your loan. Now, here's the script. I'm sorry I don't have it on a PowerPoint. Here's the script. You're ready to write, or you can record if you want to. This is what you're going to say to people to have the opportunity to get them involved. And I will say it to you again. We are not begging for money. We're letting them ask us if they can lend the money. Huge, huge difference. All right. Write this script down. Do you have an IRA or any investment capital not getting you a high rate of return safely? Do you have any investment capital not getting you a high rate of return safely? If the answer is yes, then you got a potential private lender. If the answer is no, then ask them, do you have any family or friends that you think I might talk to and give them the same opportunity? Do you have any family or friends I should talk to and give them the same opportunity? And now the only question is how do you start these conversations? And my answer is, look, first it starts with your Rolodex, or whatever they call that nowadays. Still a Rolodex to me. All the people you know, and you got their phone numbers, and some of them are pretty close to you. Some of them are not. Don't make any difference. And what you should never get in the trap of doing is assuming you know if they got any money or not. You can't do that, because I've been surprised by that one many, many times. By the way, I was a mortgage broker for 15 years, getting loans for local investors. All those loans came from people that I put together with the borrower, which incidentally, you have to have a license to do in any state. All right. I would get 5 points, and the lender would get 15% interest and 3 months interest prepayment when it was paid off. So in other words, they had to get to 3 months when it was paid off, even if it was paid off the day before it was day before it was due. So here's the key part for you. You are not going to ask for money. You're going to work yourself into a conversation, and then you're going to say, hey, listen, I'm in real estate now. I mean, I'm doing pretty well, and I'm using other people's money to buy and rehab houses, so I put them on the market and sell them. I use friends and relatives to get the money from, and in exchange, I give them a high rate of return. Do you know anybody that would be interested in that? Not, are you interested? Do you know anybody that would be interested in that you could refer me to? And that's got to be your elevator speech. So, hey, John, by the way, I'm real estate right now, and I'm doing pretty good at it. And I thought you might want to know where all the money comes from for me to buy and renovate these houses before we sell them. And the answer is I'm letting individuals be a part of the deal by lending the money and getting a high rate of return. And they get paid off plus the interest. You get the principal and the interest paid off when the deal closes. Would you know anybody that would be interested in participating in that? And of course, if they say yes, I do. And well, if they say yes, I do, you accomplish your mission. And then you go into a little bit of a speech on, listen, what I do is I borrow the money and I never exceed more than 70% of the after repaired value of the property. So you got great collateral. You get a first mortgage on the property. You get title insurance. You get fire insurance, and closes with an attorney if it does. And so all the money goes to the attorney. It never even comes to me until after we're closed. And I never exceed 70% of the after repaired value of the property, John, just so you'll know. It's a very safe loan. Does that interest you? All right. Yeah, John says, yeah, that interests me. Well, I'm telling you right now, I've already sold him. I'm not going to keep talking. Just shut the hell up right there. And then you say, well, I'll tell you what, I don't have a deal right now for you, John, but I expect one in the next few days or so. Even if you got a property under contract, that's what you say. Okay. So I'll call you, give you the details, and all I need you to do is wire the money over to the closing agent, closing attorney, or whatever, and they'll take it from there, and then you'll get a package. I tell right now, John, we need to get agreed upon what's in it for you. What's an interest rate you'd be happy with? And you would be shocked, folks. When you're dealing with people that are not in the real estate or the money world, most of the time they take 3 or 4%, 3 or 4%, even though banks charge 7 or 8% now, but they're not a bank. So if they want a low dollar, I'm going to say, John, I can't do it for 4%, because to be honest, I give my private lenders 7%. Would you like 7 better than 4? Okay. Now, what if they come in? Well, I think 10%. Well, John, I can't do 10%. That's more than the bank charges. The highest I can go is 7. Can you live with that? You see how we work it around it? We start the conversation not begging for money. And then notice I gave him the information, asked for a referral, and he told me he wanted to know about himself before I did anything else. And just for the record, no matter whether he's in or out, you should ask him, do you got any friends that you think would like to have this opportunity as well? Ask for referrals. So there's all kinds of ways to do this. In fact, I used to do lunches. One day, never on a weekend. On a weekday, I'd schedule a lunch somewhere. And first, I would reserve the place, a restaurant, and then I would start contacting the people I know, which today, it's probably going to start with email, and then probably we'll go down to a phone call, inviting them and getting lunch, and just telling them it's all about an investment opportunity secured by real estate. Come on, get a free lunch at least. And I get up there and I tell them pretty much what I just told you. And I never did one of those lunches where I didn't have a private lender come out the other side. Now, I'm not, this is a luncheon now. I'm not going to be pushy or expect them to do anything except show their interest while they're at the lunch. Then I'm going to follow up with them one-on-one. And I'm going to tell you, The first three people I talked to, the third one was my first private lender. And trust me, I didn't have any idea what I was saying or how to say it. You're doing these private lenders a favor. You're doing them a favor by putting them in a position to where they can get a high rate of return on their money safely. People don't know what to do with it. They play the stock market. That's certainly safe. No, it's not. So you're showing them what they can do with it. And, how could they lose? Worst case, the borrower don't make the payments. That might be the best case because now they're going to foreclose on the property and make much more than they would just making the loan. So getting private lenders is not hard as you might think it is. In fact, the hardest part is getting started. That's the hardest part. Getting started, opening your mouth, letting everybody know you use private money to fund and fix these houses. Now, you should hit this with your camera. This is a good system to check your numbers when you go buying junkers. You got to borrow enough to buy the house, and then enough to rehab it, and then enough to pay all the holding costs for 6 months, which I'm going through for you tomorrow, which is much more than you think it is. So the amount you borrow has got to cover all of them, and then you got to have money left over to bring home every time you close a purchase. I learned that way back in the 80s. If I didn't buy a house and bring home money the day I bought it, I just took all the energy right out of it, and it didn't excite me a whole lot. And I'm going to tell you why. Number one, you can use some of that money for operating cost. And number two, things go wrong. And Murphy lives in every house you ever rehab, believe me. And you want to borrow enough so that the house needs something other than what you planned, that you got the money there to cover it. Now, all of that combined cannot equal more than 70% of the after repaired value of the house. And now, since you're borrowing money from individuals, there is no escrow for them to hold for repairs. You got to be strong enough to create your own escrow so that when you're ready to use that money, it's there. And that's a big mistake that a lot of investors make. They have to come out of pocket to finish the project, and many of them never finish it because they don't have the money. All right. So you're going to borrow purchase price plus repairs plus holding cost plus at least $5,000. All right. And if you can't do all of that on 70% of the R, you're paying too much for the house. Stop and don't do it. You're going to regret it. I won't touch a house that I'm going to rehab that nets less than $50,000. And I'll go over that tomorrow for you. How much you got to borrow to make sure you're going to get at least $50,000. But there's a whole lot of people out there who will renovate houses and are okay to make a whole lot less than $50,000. And I understand, because I used to be one of them. But I learned very quickly, the more dollars you waller in, the more stick to you. And if I'm going to use private money, I want to get it when I'm buying, and when I'm selling, I get more money from the sale. And that means that we always borrow more than we need. If you can't borrow more than you need, you're paying too much. And your safety factor, by the way, is not in your repairs. It's in your offer. If you start offering too much, you're not going to like the other end of it. Oh, thank you, sir. All right, guys, I'm going to just finish this up, and then we'll take a break before we start back up with questions. Now, this is very important. We do not make payments on houses we're renovating. The interest accrues. Now, for those of you who don't know what that means let's say I borrow $100,000 at 7%. All right, that's 7% for a year. So at the end of a year, I owe the lender $107,000. That's what interest accruing means. There is no payment in the middle. And I will tell you, that's what most lenders want, no payment to mess with during the middle. They just want to know they're getting a high rate of return, and they are. But you got to make that your rule, because when you approach private lenders, you're approaching people. You make the rules. They don't make the rules. Let me state that again. You make the rules, not your lenders. There is no points. There is no 1-year balloon. There is no prepayment penalty. The interest rate is what you and the lender agree upon. And if they don't agree upon it, you go on to another one, because 8% out there is a good rate right now. Good rate. So you make the rules. Now, how do you make them? Well, let's say you're rehabbing a house. Well, if you're rehabbing a house, you're looking at a 6-month time going by that before you get paid, if everything works out okay. And I'll tell you the truth, it rarely does everything work out okay. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, God, I know I can get one turned around 3 months. Now, you might be right, assuming you can get a contractor to go to work right away, and assuming nothing goes wrong and he didn't find stuff that you missed when you're going through the house, and assuming a lot of other things. And in addition to that, if it takes you 6 months to get out, what happens if the market changes during that time and it slows down, way down, like it's doing right now, actually? We all see the markets slowing down now. You don't have the hyperinflation that we've had in the last 3 or 4 years. Doesn't mean it's going down, but it's leveling out. So you borrow 100 grand in a year, you owe them 107 grand, 108 grand. So there is no monthly payment. So that's easy to figure. Now, as far as the term, if I know I'm going to rehab this house, I'm fine with a year. Fine with a year. And please note this. When a private lender makes you a loan, they do not want you to pay them back off quickly. If you pay them off, they quit getting their 8% return or whatever it is. So they like the fact you're not making a payment. Don't think it's an imposition on them. They don't have to mess with it. And they know it's sitting there and accruing interest the whole time, and they know you're going to rehab it and retail it anyway. So it's not a hard pitch, not a hard sale. I got a course on private lending. It costs $497. But in a minute, I'm going to show you I can get it for free. All right. All of you that have jumped on the Gold Club, and if you're in the $99 a month group, you're already in the Gold Club, because that includes a lot of stuff other than the Gold Club, but it's part of it. Now, if you look, this is your homepage. Now, if you look right down there where it says private lender website on the left underneath the photo, if you punch on that, it will take you to not that page. It'll take you to a page that has a recording that I created for the purpose of driving people to that page and let me tell them what private lending is all about, and then get back with you to discuss it. So all you got to do is get traffic to that site, and the site will do the rest for you. Then when they say, yeah, I'm interested, send me the information. The information is my audio called Here's a Safe Alternative to the Stock Market. And in other words, you're offering them a report, so to speak, and you're not asking them for money, because you don't want to ask for money when they contact you until you put this report in their hands, and now you have a relationship with them. And frankly, now I've pretty much explained it for you. There ain't much left for you to do. You go hit that button, and you're going to a site with a banner, with several pages underneath it. Make sure you go to the one that's got the red banner on it, and then go ahead and listen to my 17-minute audio while you're at it. And in other words, I'm doing the work for you. All you got to do is get them to that site. Go to Dreams Pro AI if you haven't already been there, and you'll know how Dreams Pro works. And we went over it quickly here, but you probably need more answers than we gave them to you here. So go to dreamspro.ai, and you're going to see the device that makes your job easy, because it will get your leads for you. It has all the information on almost every house in America through AI. And it is where you're going to get your comps. It's where you're going to get your estimate for repairs once you make the list of what you're going to do. And it's going to manage your business, and it's going to manage all your leads and all of that in one package, which is a blessing to you, believe me. Incidentally, you see that button over there in the blue, right beside the gold emblem, that says training. There are hundreds of hours of training on this site, hundreds of hours. They're short lessons. Some of them are as long as an hour on this site. And then you see the resource button. Every form and agreement that I've created is under that resource button, clearly labeled so you can get to them In other words, if you want a lease option agreement, just put lease option agreement, and here they pop up. I also have a sweat equity agreement, which is a lease option agreement that tells the buyer that they're responsible for all of the repairs on the house, and you're going to give them a little discount because of that. So anyway, get acquainted with dreamspro.ai, and you're going to love the system. And we got some training coming up. In fact, January 7th. You remember the date on that, John? All right. Anyway, over a 3-day period, you're going to get hour and a half lessons. I know it is January 7th, 8th, and 9th. Put that in your book right now. It's free. You're going to love this thing.
Ron, that's January 7th through 9th. I'll put up a
I got it.
link that they can.
Yeah, I just told them that. It came to me. All right. Now, obviously, we're going to cover private lending in my Quick Start School. I'm not. My friend Jay Connor is. Now, this is a guy who lives in a city of 40,000 people in North Carolina. Came to my event in 2009. He's the only guy that I know of that went out and made over $1 million buying and selling houses in 1 year. Now, I'm sure there were more, but I don't know. Everybody don't report to me. Now, Jay got really good at buying houses. He would buy the house, use private money to borrow it, rehab it, and then sell it for cash. And he still does that this very day. He and I both use realtors when we sell a house because I'll tell you why I use them. I've been through the part of life where we're trying to find qualified buyers and sell them the houses. Now, that don't sound hard to you, but I know you want to try it anyway. If you're going to sell one for cash, sooner or later, I'm going to hear from you. I'm ready to do that realtor stuff you were talking about. Okay. And incidentally, when I put my house on the market, I always raise them a minimum of 5% of what I'm talking about, the ones I rehabbed and put out there for cash now, not my lease purchases. I raise them more normally, but I raise the price at least 5% on the rehab ones, even though the comps are lower. So guess what I learned? If it was properly fixed, they'll pay the extra 5% anyway. And almost always will it appraise for that, because somebody can go in there and do a crappy job of renovating. The appraiser knows what they agreed to pay, and they'll come in with that number or more. I can't tell you how many times a realtor told me I couldn't raise the price, and I did, and gleefully sent them a copy of the closing statement. It's a man thing. All right, tomorrow's lesson. Let's see, am I really there already? I don't know. Yeah. Tomorrow's lesson is exit strategies. I'm going to compare a all cash buyer qualifying sale to a terms sale. And I'm going to show you what it really cost to get the house from its rehab state to its sales price. And I'm going to show you why I want a great big gap between the offer and the ARV, or I ain't messing with the house. You're going to see tomorrow where all that money goes that they don't show you on TV. They absolutely don't show you on TV. And so I'm going to do that. And then we're going to talk about exit strategies and talk about some that we certainly haven't talked about yet. And I know I'm going rather fast, but in this time frame, there's so much I'd like to tell you, but I'm just not going to have time to do it. Incidentally, if you weren't here yesterday, then you don't know that my 4-day event, which I do every month, is half price right now at $29.95. And that's if you prepay. And I'm going to give you back your $149 you paid here. Just deduct it. And I got about 4 spots left where I am going to let you use up to 500 Gold Club points. That's $500. All right. So if you got Gold Club points, you can use as many as you got, up to 500, even off of that. And if you need financing, we finance you, and we don't check your credit. Okay. So just call in and talk to the person that answers your phone, one of our course advisors, and please get into this boot camp. Honestly, you can watch YouTube videos till your ears bleed and your eyes are closing. You will not get what you want out of that because that's just a piece here and a piece there. And you got to put all these pieces together in one coherent plan. And that's what I do at this training event. This is your basic training in the house buying business. And I don't know anybody who's been at it longer than I have. So make up your mind. You might as well come to the top, because so many people find me after they've gone through 4 or 5 other gurus out there and still not got where they want to go. Now, come to the old guy and call in that. Don't have the number up there, John. 800-567-6128. Call them right now and discuss it. They're not going to hard sell you. They're going to tell you how many gold points you already have if you do, and make sure they remember to take off the $149 you paid to get my VIP package, which makes it free. And then and then you can arrive at your price. I'm telling you guys, I've been charging $39.95 for several years, and I started out charging $49.95. That's the best deal I've ever offered right there. And that's the truth. All right. Couple things more on private lending though. Number one, you cannot put a whole bunch of people together into one mortgage. The SEC will frown on that. Okay. One lender, one loan. Could be a first, could be a second. And you can use money from lenders who don't have a lot of money and make second mortgages on the property, as long as the first and the second combined don't equal more than 70% of the after repaired value. So when you're making a loan, the private lender does not send you the money. You don't want to touch the money. The money needs to be secured against the house. Therefore, they're sending it directly to the attorney or the closing agent where you tell them to send it. Then they take that and they close the deal like you do any other deal. And then they'll send you a fee or wire you whatever you put on there that you're due. And you're done. You're not going to touch any money until after the closing agent has touched it and distributed it as well. And I'll say it again, you're in control. You control the rate, you control the term, you control the amount. And so you need more than one lender in your portfolio. If you got 4 or 5 lenders that are making you loans, you should be covered. But just remember, lenders are people. They go on vacation, they get sick. There's times when they're not even want to talk to you about private money. So you can't count on one. One is the worst number of business. Always more than one. More than one lender, more than one everything. All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break, after which you VIPs need to get back on here. Say it again, John. How do they do it? Nick?
Okay, Ron, we're going to take a 10-minute break. And if you are a VIP, sorry, I'm behind Nick. If you're a VIP, you can click on the button on the left hand of your screen that says Q&A with Ron. Click on that. You can use your webcam to join Ron for, he'll stay about an hour, as long as you guys have questions. And you can talk to him directly, have a conversation, ask him anything. And if you don't want to come on with your camera, you can just click the button that says turn your camera off, or you can just type in to the Q&A, the chat session, and Ron will answer all your questions.
Yep, I will. All right. And by the way, it's not too late to join, get the VIP package now. Don't forget, you get the recordings of this whole week, including the questions for a lousy $149. All right. Come on back at 25 after, and right now I got 14 after. See you then.
I think the biggest light bulb for me is going from the mindset of the Burr method, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. I kind of thought that was my future, and Ron very, very quickly, showed me a much easier, a much safer, a much more stable path to wealth. And of course, that's through owner financing in terms and doing it in such a way where you're never personally guaranteeing debt. And that's life-changing. That principle is really, I think, what a lot of real estate investors need to learn. Because most people, are just getting bank loan after bank loan after bank loan, and that's dangerous. So that was the biggest, aha moment for me.
Yeah, if you have doubts about trying this and doing it on your own, that you got to come to this quick start, and he'll show you how to get started. It's takes some work. You're going to have to spend some time learning and educating yourself, but it's worth it. All of his quick starts are really they'll open your eyes a little bit on what you can do, and you'd be surprised at what you can do without money and without credit.
What I would strongly suggest is don't give up. Don't be afraid. Everybody's going to be nervous, but just keep plugging forward. Use all of the amenities, for lack of better words, that are offered to you. Use your VA. Put out bandit signs. Do the free advertising. Do your due diligence with following up on the leads that you get from your VA or Gold Club or wherever you get them from. And don't get discouraged. I was lucky because within 6 months I made my first deal. Here we are a year and a half later, and Les just made his.
My first deal, yeah. And so I'd also add to that, get a lead, get a mentor, and do the very next thing you could probably do that I would say is get the script and learn how to talk on the phone.
Yeah, can't stress that enough. We do practice calls to each other.
It's hard for me to do that. I was a D student in high school. I'm still a D student. But you give me a milling machine and I'll mill you out a putter head in about 30 minutes.
Not letting fear stop you and realizing that perhaps this is what you're meant for. You know, I wasted a good 30 years chasing the, golden ladder, I guess as they call it or whatever, and putting up with things that just was unconscionable in some cases, and before I realized, what, I'm getting advanced in age and maybe it's time for me to step into who I'm supposed to be. And the nice thing is that it's actually helped me to achieve the very thing that I had been trying to do my whole life, which is to help others, to love on others, and to kind of, just wrap my arms around them and say, hey, listen, I can help you solve these problems. I think that goes back to when my family and I lost our home when I was a very young man. It was devastating, and it forever changed my life. And but now I get to be the guy that go, hey, you know what? How much can you afford? I actually had a person tell me recently that they couldn't afford even close to what the house next door was going for, which was not as nice as the one they were about to rent from me. And I said, well, what can you afford? And I had to ask them 2 or 3 times. And finally they said, $700 a month. I know you're not going to take that. And I said, okay, I can work with that, And then their eyes got this big, really? Are you serious? I'm like, yeah, it's just money, And so it gives me the opportunity to be generous. It gives me the opportunity to love on people.
I'm just thankful I met Ron and that I've learned from him and all the opportunities that he gave us and this great group of people, because everyone here is just wonderful. It's a big family and everybody learns from everybody. We all keep in touch after the events and, we all hang out and text and just constantly keep in touch with each other. So it's a big family he's built here. I just did a deal with the wholesale. That was just a simple hoarder house situation, mental health issue. So that was a very quick in and out wholesale. I did a wholesale where I got a really great townhouse and unit surrounded by $800,000 houses. I got it for $250. Needed no work. It was beautiful. They just happened to want to move out of the country. So we did that. I split that with another person. And what I'm currently working on is getting some houses in North Carolina. There's 2 there that I plan on doing with terms, pretty houses that we'll be doing. And then I'm looking at 5 in Ohio right now that we're negotiating.
Awesome.
Yeah, I right now I have about 3 or 4 pending. I don't want to count my chickens, but feel good that there's at least a deal or 2, in the amount of prospects that I've accrued. I've been doing a lot of direct mail through REI Complete. And there's some promising, Naples and Fort Myers is a tough market. It's, like most coastal cities, it's difficult to find motivated sellers, and especially in Florida, there's just so many people that are coming to Florida that the demand for properties is high. And so it's been a little bit of a struggle to find motivated sellers, but I've been able to kind of go out beyond a little bit in the more rural areas and have a lot better results. So feel good about a deal on the horizon.
I just did I bought up a property out of a trust. I used a subject to offer, and then I used private money to close the deal.
My very first one was subject to. I did that with trying to help a family member, my stepmother, save her property after several months of another family member not helping her the way she was supposed to be helped. And that was very painful. That was very painful. And in fact, everyone told me that the house was a wash, let it go back to the bank. It was kind of a hoarder situation. And that there was just no way, too much money was going to need to be put into it, just bulldoze it and be done with it, And I immediately took the whiteboard off my wall and began, a pen in each hand, writing, frantically, okay, well, it's this much is owed, and this is who we've got to contact. And it took us a year. It took us a year. I fixed the place up, put it on the market, helped my stepmother get out of there, and got her into a nice little apartment in an assisted living facility. And we were able to save the house, get a modification, which then lowered the payment, which was awesome, and then install a tenant buyer that came in with $10,000 cash and $1,300 a month. Yeah, so it was nice. Yeah, it was very good. It was a good experience, and then that launched from there.
I made my first deal, and Ron was right. I didn't use one penny of my own money. I did use a private lender to pay off equity, which I have to pay that interest every month, and I do. And Les just made his first deal.
It was a FISBO deal through Dreams.
Yeah, the VA got it.
And the VA got it, and they sent it to us. We looked at it. We told the VA and said, go ahead and check on this. We found out most of the stuff we needed to find out, but we went ahead and said, well, let's go out and look at the house. We made an appointment, went and looked at the house. There was another investor that was trying to do a deal with them. But he wanted to just say, okay, give me 3 months to get somebody in, and then we'll write a contract.
And he had no earnest money.
And so we told him what we do and explained, how we handle it. And they liked our deal better, and so we signed up that night.
And we gave him $100. Yeah. You gave him $100.
$100.
And that was Thursday. And Friday, we went to our attorney, who works for a title company, and he's done the title search and everything for us. He gets the title search done in 3 to 4 hours, which is amazing. And I just spoke with him yesterday, and everything's a go.
Yeah, they want to close on the 31st. And for her deal, she got a 13-room house, close to $500,000 on 2 acres of ground.
Yeah.
A mile from the courthouse in Athens, Alabama.
And yeah, it's a historic area. And it is a huge house, and I went in there. I got it for exactly what the seller paid for it. I took over payments. I gave him his equity. Had somebody interested in going in. The deal fell through the day before we were to close. And within 30 days, I got somebody else that was ready to go in. They needed a little bit of time to save the money. My seller, through a series of mishaps, just kept giving me more and more time before I had to make my first payment. That was last October. Here we are, October of this year. I have yet to had to make a payment on that house. And I do have a tenant buyer in there right now.
Which she's receiving rent payments.
Yeah, with a $1,600 a month spread.